the school system that we're running is still a very much like beginning of the century sort of school system.
It has barely evolved.
It has barely evolved. It's an economic machine.
Yeah.
It's an economic machine which has to push out people with skills, you know.
Workforce.
It has to, you know, and it also has to provide a daycare sort of service because parents work, and that's why the most popular schools are the ones that keep them for as long as possible.
And Montessori school, from my understanding, they really encourage that individuality, that playfulness.
Yes, exactly. So Maria Montessori was a fantastic scientist. She was the first woman surgeon of Italy, and she was also, you know, one of the best child psychiatrists there was at the time. And she began with a group of children who were, who were basically being kept in asylums for one reason or another, you know. I mean, the asylums at the turn of the century, there'd be women that were depressed to the children of the women that were depressed. And she scientifically started looking at how children learn, you know, because before that, there weren't many studies at all, you know.
So how do children learn through?
So let's look at the history of education, right? Which is very, very interesting. The one of the first let's say handbooks of education we have is of Cyrus, the Persian king, and it was just like a book that was passed down, you know. So before that, there was no such thing as as a compulsory education. There would be education for people who had to lead and for people who had to become the best version of themselves, you know. And we've got that down. We know how to do that because we've been doing that for thousands of years. So what we know about educating a human being is that, first of all, you need a master of their trade. You need somebody who is a philosopher. You need somebody who will take care of this human from when they are small. And you know that you can only really cram in an hour a day and then let them play. And this was the education of kings for, you know, thousands of years. We know that if we want to make a king, we're going to need somebody who provides a highly personalized, specific education, somebody who already is the best and knows how to turn you into the best.
Mentors.
A real mentor. Yes, exactly. So education-wise, this is what you're looking at. But obviously that's very expensive. It was always for the elite, you know. I mean, like Alexander the Great had Aristotle as a teacher. Well, maybe that's why he became Alexander the Great.
Wow.
You see what I mean? And it just goes on from there.
So what did Maria discover in her...
So Maria Montessori discovered the scientific way that children learn, and the best way is really to have, you know, obviously, you know, it's very different, but the education has to be child-led, and it has to be per interest. And
I love that.
Yes. Because we do, you know, we are, you know, I people sometimes worry. They say, oh, my child is not smart, or my child needs to do this, or whatever it is.
That was me at school. Not my mom, but I mean, it was always...
She can't,
she has
slow.
more, she's not, you know, reaching her full potential, she's not interested.
Yeah.
And it was never, maybe this system doesn't work for her. And now I know that because I've gone back to studying on my own terms, but I had such a fear around it because I had such a mostly negative experience from the schooling system. So that makes absolute sense.
Well, see, why does that happen? Like, from a teacher's point of view, we are, you know, we've evolved, you know, a lot of us has to do with evolution. We've evolved into being the ultimate learning machines. We are.
Absorbing, memorizing, regurgitating.
But because we are very good learning machines, our minds will push out anything which is harmful to us, including like forced education, because we do not need to learn what is useless to us. We need to learn what is useful to us.
And that is individual.
Yes, yes, exactly. So it is a very big thing. But let's say, okay, so you'll have a child of about 6, and by the time you are 6, do you remember what you wanted to be when you were 6? This is very important. What were you playing? What did you want to be? What did you like when you were 6?
I wanted to be a vet. I liked animals, and I was digging up worms. And I was
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, perfect. So around the age of 6, your brain already knows how to make you reach your full potential. And if you had a mentor, and if you were followed and allowed and pushed to do what you loved doing, you would have actually learned everything else along the way. So, for example, let's say you get a 6-year-old who is incredibly interested in robotics. Okay, so to learn more about robotics, you're going to have to learn to read. Okay, and reading and writing, as Maria Montessori pointed out, there are windows in your life starting from like around the age of 3.5 to 6, where you will pick up reading and writing, because it is one of those cultural assets that can be as easily picked up as language. You really don't need to go to school that much. What you do need are parents who very casually involve you in that, but it is one of those skills that humans can really learn very, very fast. So the idea of going to school to alphabetization started because many parents did not know how to read or write, but nowadays we have the case of children where reading and writing shouldn't even be an issue if parents had enough time with them, because it's just one of the things that children learn very, very quickly and easily.
I had major difficulty with that when I was younger.
It also depends on how it is introduced to you and how much time. We're all good at different things, but you also have to imagine that there is no rule that you have to learn to read and write perfectly at age 7.
Yeah.
You do get better around it. But what Maria Montessori also discovered is that the most important thing, let's say, is that if the child can kind of self-lead and learn through their interest, like you're learning, let's say you liked animals, you learn geographies to finding out where the animals live, and you learn about nutrition and life cycles. Science. Because you know where they exactly. Yeah. Like everything can lead through everything to everything. And what we know is that humans learn via obsession. We get obsessed with something, we like it so much, and we will read and learn as much of it as possible to a very deep level until we hit the next best thing and then move on to the next obsession.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I loved science, and I felt that my science teachers, they took the pleasure out of it for me.
Absolutely.
And I was able to, or rather that interest was reawakened much later on in life.
Yes.
It's
yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, and this is, we're going back to the core of education. Nowhere was education ever made to turn you into the best possible person you are.
Yeah.
You're not having elite education. You're having, popularist, like you're having working class education, which means you need to shut up because there's a class of 30 people in a budget type school, and there's no way we're going to be able to do what you want to do. One, we don't have the space, we don't have the resources, we don't have the time.
And we have a lot of teachers who really couldn't care less.
We have a lot of teachers which couldn't care less. We have a lot of beliefs which aren't supported. A mainstream education is not in any way geared to provide the
foundation.
The developmental needs of human beings. It is not. And actually, there's a lot of belief that, children can't focus, children, they can't concentrate on their work. Well, school breaks concentration completely. Completely. The fact that you walk in and it's like, right, now we'll do maths, and just when you're getting into maths, now stop, now we're going to do English, and you concentrate a bit, now stop, we're going to take a break, and you have no control over that. You can't concentrate because at one point you have to stop, and all those interruptions completely break your concentration. You learn as a child that you can obsess about other things, but whatever that is, it can't be at school because you're not driving the wheel, but you don't learn when you don't drive.